everyone. We're here at the Hockenheimring for the final weekend. We are so excited. The sky is blue, the sun is shining, but don't let that fool you. It is freezing cold here in Hockenheim, and now at this moment the doors are opening because this is the man who it's all about. It's René Rast, because he is leading the championship. He is 19 points ahead of Nico Müller. And obviously at this point, with only 2 qualifying and 2 races to go, it's all about the points they can collect. Because this weekend we're going to find out who's going to be the champion 2020. And it's going to be super exciting. So let's get started for the qualifying. And here's your commentator. Enjoy.
Thanks very much indeed, Verena. Chris Hartley here to talk you through this final weekend of action and this first qualifying session. And there is the man that they are all trying to catch. In particular, 2 drivers are trying to catch, because it's René Rast who comes here with a 19-point lead in the championship off the back of 4 straight race victories in the 2 events that we had at Zolder in Belgium preceding this weekend here at Hockenheim. Before that, he'd only picked up 2 race wins. So the question remains, and this is something that René has brought up himself, is it that his car suited Zolder, the conditions there, the tarmac there, or is it that the team has made real progress over the last couple of months? Because prior to Zolder, he was definitely just about hanging on to the tails of the 2 AB Sportsline drivers that he's racing against for the title, Nico Müller and Robin Freins, which is why he'd only picked up 2 of the victories, because up until we got to Zolder, it was Nico Müller that had led the championship from the word go. So was Zolder an anomaly, or are we going to see a continuation of René Rast's blistering form here at Hockenheim? That question is, at least in part, about to be answered as we get this first 20-minute qualifying session underway very shortly, in just under 3 minutes' time. The championship situation, as I say, is that René Rast has got a 19-point lead. There are 56 points still up for grabs this weekend, and it starts here in qualifying. As ever in DTM, you get 3 points if you qualify on pole, 2 if you qualify second, and a point if you qualify third. There are 25 points maximum available for each of the weekend's races. So the magic figure at the end of today is that Nico Müller and Robin Freins need to be within 28 points of René at the end of the day, because that's all the points that will be available in day 2. So there's the standings: 304 for Rast, 285 for Müller. Robin Freins still with an outside chance. He's 41 points adrift. As I say, only 56 points still available. So his real only hope here is to go for pole positions, race wins, and hope the others have a bad day.
That all cars, and the last car is Kubica.
So a moment of calm before the storm here at Hockenheim. We had 2 free practice sessions yesterday, and it was actually none of the 3 championship contenders that topped the times in the first one. It was Mike Rockenfeller. Could be a dark horse. He's never won here at Hockenheim. He's had many podiums, but the 2013 champion, not only looking for his first win at Hockenheim, but also looking for his first win of the season. He went quickest in free practice 1 with a time of 1 minute 29.594 seconds. He was just over a tenth quicker than René Rast, who went well and was second. Ferdinand Habsburg, who picked up his first pole and his first podium at Zolder in the previous race weekend, was 3rd quickest yesterday in the privately run WRT squad in his Audi. And there was a real return to form for Jamie Green, who was 4th quickest overall in that first free practice session. Loic Duval and Nico Müller were 5th and 6th, but Robin Freins really struggled both in short run format and when they did the longer runs in the second part of free practice. So he was only 14th quickest, and he was quite a bit off the pace in that first run. Marco Wittmann was somebody else that had a problem at the start of free practice, struggling with chronic understeer, and this is something that I'm sure is going to be an issue this weekend, because we're racing at Hockenheim a month later than we normally would be. So cold conditions, it's a crisp, dry, sunny day, but that is going to be a real issue for them. They went out even quicker, though, at the end of the day yesterday. It was dusk-like. The light was really starting to fade at the end of the second free practice session, and that one was topped by Nico Müller. So Nico Müller ended the day with the fastest time of the day yesterday, 1:29.218 seconds, just the tonic he needed after a tough couple of weekends at Zolder, in which he lost the championship lead and lost numerous points to his big rival René Rast, although he did fight back to get a very strong second place finish in that 4th and final race at Zolder. So Nico Müller was quickest in second free practice. Jamie Green was second quickest, did a 1:29.298, just 80 thousandths of a second between them. Remember, Jamie is teammates to René Rast at Team Rosberg, so he could come into play here as we see the session get underway. René Rast was up there again, third quickest, and a very similar time, 1:29.314 seconds, so less than a tenth between the top three. Timo Glock was 4th, Sheldon van der Linde was 5th, and Marco Wittmann was 6th. So the BMWs found some time in that second part of free practice, and the long runs in free practice 1. Nico Müller and René Rast were pretty comparable, but Robin Freins, as I say, lost a lot of time. He was as quick as them at the start on the long run, but after 14 or 15 laps, he lost an awful lot of time compared to them. They were losing around about 9/10 to 1.1 seconds from the start to the finish with tyre degradation, but Robin Freins was losing about 2 seconds. Jamie Green was in the best form because he was as quick as them in terms of his absolute pace at the start of the long run, but he was only losing about 7/10 of a second by the end of the session, and one of his quickest laps coming just a couple of laps from the end of his 14-lap stint. So it's looking potentially very good for Jamie, and that could be a help, as I say, to René Rast, because Jamie can't win the championship, but he could help his teammate in this fight. Equally, you've got Robin Freins and Nico Müller as teammates, but for today at least, Robin Freins can still mathematically win the championship. If it gets to tomorrow and the Dutchman can't, maybe he's going to come into play to help out his teammate, but he's really got to find some pace. He did struggle again in that second free practice session, not as bad, but he was only 8th quickest, and again on the slightly longer run that he did, he was struggling when we get to race pace. So we're about to find out how it all unfolds in this first competitive session of the weekend. The car's building up the tyre temperatures now. René Rast leading the group round with his teammate Jamie Green just a few seconds behind. They've just come past the commentary box here as I overlook this 4.574 kilometre long circuit. Venue, the circuit, first built in the early 1930s, and it's undergone various iterations since then. The original circuit was 12 kilometres long, a triangular type circuit built by a local, or the idea came from a local timekeeper who thought there ought to be a racetrack in his hometown here at Hockenheim. And then in 1965 the track changed again. The track that I grew up watching went way out into the forest with several 1 kilometre long, or more than 1 kilometre long straights. That was changed 18 years ago now, back in 2002, to the version of the circuit you now have. The final sector, which comes in through the grandstands, the arena section, it's not exactly the same as it was, but it's the part of the circuit that remains largely intact. Actually designed by the same guy that designed the Suzuka racetrack in Japan. So it's a circuit which has got some very quick sections and some very slow corners as well. It's hard on the tyres, this circuit, because you've got very quick left-handers like the Parabolica, which is taken in 6th gear, and they're at 295 kilometres an hour when they come out of that. But then straight after that, you've got corners like the hairpin where they drop down to 1st gear. They're very hard on the brakes. We saw lots of lockups yesterday, lots of tyres being smoked, and they dropped down to 55 kilometres an hour there. And you've got some intermediate corners as well. Some of those curbs as well have pretty sharp edges to them, so you have to be careful how much you ride those, because that can affect tyre degradation in the race as well. But for qualifying, it's all about pushing to the max. So if they can match yesterday's times in free practice, we're looking at 1:29s potentially. It's going to take them a couple of laps to build up the tyre temperatures. In terms of the qualifying so far this year, the best qualifier on average has actually been Robin Freins, who's had 5 pole positions. René Rast has had 5 pole positions as well, but slightly better on average has been Robin Freins, who's only once this season qualified out of the top 3, which is a pretty incredible record. That was 8th in the second qualifying session in the first weekend at Zolder, but other than that, he's been in the top 3 every time, which is why he's amassed more points than anybody from qualifying. He's scored 29 points just from qualifying this year, Robin Freins. That's worth more than a race win. 26 points have been scored by René Rast, and slightly lagging is Nico Müller with 21, although his average grid is 3rd, so those 3 have really dominated the top 3 in the qualifying sessions, broken up on the odd occasion by the odd other driver. Loic de Val's had a pole position, Timo Glock's had a pole position, that was at Zolder. Ferdinand Habsburg, of course, got his maiden pole position as well. Well, the team's watching on. Thomas Biermeier hoping to follow up the team's title, which has already been wrapped up for Team AB Sportsline, taking the title away from Team Rosberg, who won it last year. They won the Drivers' Championship with René Rast as well. But now there's a real chance to get, or try to get, the Drivers' title for Thomas Biermeier and his squad as well. But it is not going to be easy. 19 points is a fairly big gap to try to close. René Rast has been here before. He set an early benchmark time, but they're going to go quicker than that. 1 minute 32.160. This will be his first proper push lap, though, and René Rast does a 19.455 through the first sector. That's very good. I think the best that we saw yesterday through sector 1 was a 19.5. So René Rast looking like he might already, on this first push lap, get into the 129s. He goes through. Next best through that first sector is his teammate Jamie Green, who's done a 19.8, but Nico Müller goes through the first sector at 19.57 seconds. So it's about a tenth down on René Rast, but he is second quickest at the moment, Nico Müller, the driver second in the championship. René Rast pushes on. It's the middle sector, which is the longest sector. Sector 1 only takes in the first corner, the first two corners, really. And the second sector takes in the parabolica, the hairpin, and the section after that is about 41 seconds long, 41.4 to be precise. If you are René Rast, he's just making his way into the Sachs curve now. Through the left-hander he comes. You can see him from the commentary box window at the back of the paddock, about to come through the final turn, or two turns, 16 and 17. It's a double apex right-hander that leads out onto the back straight. This is going to be the gauntlet laid down then by René Rast, the championship leader, looking for his third championship title. He crosses the line, and it's a 1:28.434, fastest lap of the weekend by a mile. Absolutely terrific start to the session for him. His teammate Jamie Green puts in a good lap as well, 1:29.5, but he's 1.1 seconds behind. And then Robin Freins crosses the line, and he's found some time over yesterday. Gone second, 1:29.1. Müller, though, just behind him quicker, 1:29.094 seconds. So it's Rast, Müller, Loic de Waal, who looked pretty handy yesterday, has just gone third with a 1:29.118, and Mike Rockenfeller, 1:29.176, goes fourth. So Freins down to fifth, Green down to sixth, Habsburg seventh, Auer, Kubica and Eng rounding out the top 10. It's all going to change on this lap, though, because even quicker, by a few hundredths of a second through sector 1, is René Rast, and you can see him attacking here. If he gets another race win this weekend, he's going to move up the all-time rankings in terms of most race wins in the championship, and he'll have done it with far fewer races than anyone around him. So Bernd Schneider is the driver that's won the most DTM races at 43. Then Klaus Ludwig has got 37, but René Rast, Gary Paffett and Matthias Ekstrom, all double champions, are tied at the moment with 23 race wins, so he could be about to move up to third in the all-time rankings, despite the fact he's only had 70-odd races. There's a fraction down in the middle sector, a fraction up in the first sector. It's going to be another great lap from him if he can just hold it together through the final sector. But he, I think, has come into the pits. Yes, he has. So Jamie Green will actually be the next one to come through. So it's looking like a pretty good lap, but he felt he couldn't improve and has come into the pits instead. Jamie Green goes through, and he now gets into the 128s. 128.934 to go second. Freins is going to come through. Then Müller. Muller's done a personal best in the second sector. Freins is sixth at the moment, doesn't improve. What about Nico Müller? A 128.934. That puts him for now up to third, but Loic de Waal's coming through just behind. He's going quickly too, but it's slightly slower. A 129.1 for Duval. So 2 tenths down on Muller's time. So Rast and Green, the fastest two. Müller is third, Duval fourth, Rockenfeller fifth. Robin Freins, you can see on the replay there, getting a bit out of shape in sixth place. But it's a much improved performance from Robin Freins. Really didn't understand what was going on with the car. The conversations that we heard were privy to over the team radios yesterday in the first part of free practice. Didn't know where he was losing the time, but he really was struggling with the car all the way through yesterday. Getting there now, though. Best performance so far, but if it stays like this, it would still be his second worst qualifying of the year. Such are the standards been. Robert Kubica, with a personal best in the middle sector, has improved his lap time to a 129.3. Into the top 10 he's gone. And Jonathan Aberdeen has just gone into the top 6 to push Robin Freins there to 7th place. So he's not where Robin needs to be to have any real chance of staying in contention by the end of the day. He needs to be taking points away from René Rast. It's 41 points adrift. If he's 28 points adrift or more at the end of the day, he's going to be out of contention. So Rast quickest, Green second, Muller third, 128.4, 128.9 for the next two. In fact, they set the identical lap times, Green and Muller, which could come into it, couldn't it, if they don't get any quicker in the second half of the session, because Green set the time first. He gets second on the grid provisionally. Muller will be third, 128.934 seconds for both of them.
So we have the expected 2 minutes in the box now.
So they come just for a couple of minutes, a quick turnaround. We've already got more than half the session gone. Excellent first lap from René Rast. He got straight down to business. I think had he not aborted his second flying lap, that might well have been in itself quick enough for pole position. He was just a little bit down, a tenth or two down. So he gave up the lap, saved the tyres, but he's got half a second over anybody else. Exactly half a second quicker than his teammate Jamie Green and Nico Muller. Loic de Waal, fourth quickest. And we missed the previous weekend at Zolder, where he was racing at Petit Le Mans. Managed to get an excellent result there, finishing in fourth place. His place was taken last time out by Benoit Trellier, the former Le Mans winner. But good to have Loic back, and he's fourth quickest, 129.118. Mike Rockenfeller, who was fastest in free practice, won fifth.
No time losses so far compared to Jamie.
Copy.
René Rast has been described as a grafter by his long-term manager. He studies the data relentlessly, as much as an engineer, more than some engineers, and he's doing it at home as well. Every video of every race circuit he goes to that he can find, he studies, tries to learn and relearn and get bits of information. You can see it almost when he's bringing the car into the pit lane. He's still asking questions about his own car and everybody else's performances. Replay of a lockup there for Jamie Green, which just sent him out a little bit wide. So easy to do when you're pushing. And there was a big moment there as well for Timo Glock. Just got it slightly wrong. Almost made the apex of the corner, but had to let it drift out wide. You can either fight it, try to turn in, but risk a spin, or just let it drift out wide. Plenty of runoff area here. There were all sorts of warnings yesterday in the free practice session, and I mean literally dozens of them for drivers exceeding track limits at turn one. It's an endless stream of them, but no such problems today so far. Right, second part of the session getting underway. René Rast has the edge, and he has the edge by half a second.
Track is clear.
Stays like this, he's going to score 2 more points than Nico Muller. He's going to give himself a 21-point lead going into the first race of the weekend. Muller's first target has to be to get himself at least on the front row of the grid here. To do so, he just needs to go 1/1000th of a second quicker. He'll be ahead of Jamie Green. Ooh, tight release here. Ooh, Nico Muller right into the path of Philipp Eng. Had to get on the brakes. And that was a bit tight. They got away with it just. Evasive action almost into the pit wall there. So first drama of the day for Nico Muller. He's had quite a few of them over the last couple of weekends. Qualifying, oh so important. When you're a bit further back down the grid, that is when you can get into trouble, when your race can be compromised. He knows this from his 2 weekends at Zolder, where he was, far from slow. He was just off the ultimate pace. But René Rast took full advantage to get those 4 race wins. Mixed weekend, very mixed weekend for Robin Freins. His championship derailed. 2 podium finishes, but 2 non-finishes as well. Thomas Biermeier with his 2 drivers trying to catch René Rast in this qualifying session. At the moment, he's got Muller 3rd quickest, and he's got Freins only in 7th place. All out then. René Rast over the line, but still going to be building up tyre temperature on this next lap. Jamie Green, his teammate just behind, definitely play a pivotal role this weekend. It's been a really tough season for Jamie. He's multiple times finished in the top 3 of the championship, been a championship runner-up, and he was actually 2nd in the championship at the end of the first weekend at Spa, but unfortunately bit of bad luck here and there, and it's robbed him of a chance to really show what he can do this season. Involved in a few incidents at Zolder as well, notably with Philipp Eng several times. Good to see Robert Kubica going well in 9th place, 1:29.3 for him, his best time. So he's made a big, significant step forward today as well. There's the overhead shot of the hairpin, critical corner that. When he gets to the race, that's the biggest braking zone. They're pulling 2.4 G's worth of force on the drivers when they hit the brakes and knock off around about 240 kilometers an hour in just a couple of seconds as they brake hard. So at the moment, it is Audi's dominating the top 5. The best of the BMWs, as he's been quite often this year, is Jonathan Aberdeen, looking for his first podium. Strong 4th place finish in one of the races at Zolder. His best time, a 1:29.180. Just needs to find a few hundredths of a second to get himself onto the 2nd row of the grid. Fabio Scherer going well as well after his best qualifying in the previous weekend at Zolder to get on the 2nd row of the grid. He got 2 5th place finishes. He got embroiled in an incident which also involved ultimately Robin Freins in that final race at Zolder as well. But the performance is coming from Fabio. Pretty much every time I walk through the paddock on the way to the commentary box from the media centre, I see Fabio and his physical trainer doing some exercise or another. It's something that he's really brought through, I think, from his Formula 3 days. So you see him juggling, you see him doing rope work, and it's all about hand-eye coordination, just to kind of wake the brain up, get the brain and focused, the hand-eye coordination as sharp as it can be before you go into a session. I'm sure the other DTM drivers do it, but the one who's always visible doing it, and you often see him doing it on the grid before the race as well, is Fabio Scherer. He's doing well, and the 2nd fast Swiss driver that we've got in this championship, 8th at the moment in the order. Okay, Wittmann struggling again, and Timo Glock as well, 13th for Glock, 14th for Wittmann, bearing in mind they both went pretty well in that 2nd free practice session yesterday. Right, so it'll be on the next lap where we'll find out what it's going to be. There's only 3 minutes to go. It's been pretty cagey. It looks like from today, it's 1 lap and out. Not many people improved on their 2nd lap time. René Rast starting to build it up then, getting ready to really go for it. Right, he's just coming back into my view, just coming into the arena section on his way into the Sachs-Curve. And we'll see him building up the pace now. It'll be him, followed by Green, followed by Duval, and Rockenfeller. And then Muller is just behind them, coming into the Sachs-Curve now. Right, releasing the car then to go on another attack lap with just over 2.5 minutes to go is René Rast. Through he goes. He's already on provisional pole by half a second. He goes into the first corner at Ravenel Curve at about 190 kilometers an hour. 5th gear down towards turn 2 in a moment. The Bernie Ecclestone curve, that's down to 2nd gear at 90 kilometers an hour. It's a tight exit from there. Goes right, then it kicks left. Now you're building up the speed and you are flat all the way to the hairpin now. Cancellation of his last lap time for failing to manage track limits, but it's not a lap that was going to count anyway in terms of how quick it was. Through Parabolica then, 6th gear corner, 295 kilometers an hour, and down towards the hairpin. There we go. Through the first sector, he was 19.6 seconds. That was a couple of tenths down on his best, so maybe the next lap is going to be better. It's going to have to be, potentially, because Nico Muller has set the absolute best first sector time of the session so far. 19.434 seconds. Look, Duval's gone quick as well with a 19.596. Freins has a lap time cancelled for, guess what, track 1 turn limits. Track limits at turn 1, rather, but it was on a lap, again, which was a build-up lap. But they don't want to lose their lap times here. These are the ones that are going to count. Muller then, with his head down, determined to find something here to get himself at least onto the front row of the grid. Jonathan Aberdeen is currently 2nd quickest. Rast 1:28.434. Aberdeen 1:28.891 seconds. That's a great lap. So Green down to 3rd, Muller down to 4th, but Muller has set the absolute best in sector 2 as well. 41.422 seconds. He is on course for provisional pole position. René Rast goes through. He backed off on that lap, so this is his final chance with just over a minute to go. Rast goes on the charge once more. But Muller is the one to watch here. Look, Duval looks like he's on a pretty decent lap as well. Maybe not his best, but what about Nico Muller? Coming through now, over the line he goes, and he goes 2nd. It's a 1:28.453. So onto the front row, but agonisingly short of René Rast's earlier time of 1:28.434. 19 thousandths of a second between them, 19 points between them in the championship as it stands coming into this session. He's got one more chance though. And he's going to have to make it count because René Rast has gone even quicker through the first sector, 19.415 seconds. It's the middle sector that's the real key here. Sectors 2 and 3, they're the longer sectors, but he's had a great start to the lap. Just about 30 thousandths of a second quicker through the first sector than Muller was. And Muller is a bit slower through sector 1. It's not bad, 19.503, but he's a tenth down. René Rast, absolute best through the second sector as well. Just trying to make sure of this. The clock has already ticked down to 0. They get to finish the lap, but he's just got to hold it together through the final sector now. René Rast looks like he might just get into the 128.3s here. Muller is responding though. Absolute best in the second sector, half a tenth quicker. So he's about half a tenth down overall. Checkered flag comes out. René Rast crosses the line, he goes through. And the time is a 128.405. Best lap of the session so far. What about Muller? He's second. He was only 19 thousandths of a second adrift. I reckon he's about half a tenth down over the first two sectors. Waiting for him to come through and cross the line as he comes out of the final turn. Muller goes through. No, he hasn't done it. 128.585 seconds. And that means René Rast should have pole position. I don't think anybody else out there looks likely to break it. And it's another pole position for René Rast, but what a fight that was between the top two in the championship. Robin Freins finds a better time at the end of the session, fractionally quicker than his previous best lap, but he stays 7th overall. And Sheldon van der Linde pulls one out of the bag right at the end of the session to go 5th. 129.026. Great effort that by Sheldon to, not for the first time this season, be the best of the BMWs in qualifying. Philip Eng as well. Much better performance than we've seen from him so far this weekend in 6th place. Putting Loic Duval out of the top 6, those two. And actually putting Robin Freins down to 8th place. So 3 points to René Rast. Pole position to René Rast. And a 20-point lead going into the first race of the weekend. He scores 3. Muller, second quickest, will score 2. And it's a championship point for that man, Jonathan Aberdeen, with an excellent qualifying performance to put himself into 3rd place on the grid. For some time, he was looking like he was going to be on the front row of the grid as well. So excellent effort by Jonathan. Dark horse. You're watching the championship contenders, and quite often at these final rounds, when you're focusing on that, you get somebody else who's just out there to try and have a good race and not really worried about championship points. And Jonathan Aberdeen, that man today. So Rast quickest, Muller 2nd, Aberdeen 3rd, Green 4th, van der Linde 5th, Engin 6th, Duval 7th, Freins 8th, Rockenfeller be disappointed with 9th given how he started the weekend, fastest in free practice 1, Fabio Scherer 10th, Robert Kubica 11th, Ferdinand Habsburg. It looked strong yesterday, only 12th today.
Okay, Müller is over the line. Your pole in front of Müller. Well done, mate.
Just a single syllable.
Good job, guys.
Yeah.
What's the margin?
You too. Half a tenth. You're half a tenth in front.
Jesus.
But then you are in our own league, because the next BMW is Aberdeen, and it's 5 tenths behind, and then the rest of the Audis are following. So well done.
Copy, good job, everyone.
Well, how about that? The reaction there from the driver that's nailed pole position there. Bearing in mind he was half a second up halfway through the session, though. In the end, he was just 48 thousandths of a second clear of Nico Muller. And it's worth an extra championship point. They're the top 10. Rast, Muller, Aberdeen, Green, and van der Linde the top 5. Engin 6th, Duval 7th, Freins 8th, Rockenfeller in 9th, and Fabio Scherer qualifying in 10th, with Kubica 11th, Habsburg 12th, Gluck 13th, Wittmann 14th, Newey 15th. He was looking strong in the first free practice session yesterday, but it's got away from him a bit today. And Lucas Auer struggling as well, back in 16th place. So excellent job done. And good to see the respect between the championship contenders at the end of the session. Super slow-mos then of our top 3. Best qualifying for Jonathan Aberdeen of the season. Gets himself 3rd place. He was 4th on the grid at Zolder in the previous weekend, so really finding a good vein of form here, Jonathan Aberdeen. 3rd quickest, best of the BMWs, 128.891 seconds. 2nd quickest, just 48 thousandths of a second away from what would have been a crucial pole position, Nico Muller. It wasn't for the want of trying, but he's going to have to start behind this man, and he's going to have to give him another point lead in the championship. René Rast nailed it. 1:28.405 seconds. It's another pole position for the man that's in search of his third championship title to move up to joint second in the all-time rankings. Pole position number 19 for car number 33. René Rast back then in the holding area. They're the top three cars. Rast, Muller and Aberdeen. And René just inspecting the car. See, always thinking is René Rast, the man from Minden, former multiple Porsche Super Cup and Porsche Carrera Cup GB champion. That surely, that experience of having already won championship titles is going to help. In an interview in the build-up to the weekend, he said, "Do you know, I don't put too much pressure on myself. I just do my job as normal, and hopefully everything then comes your way. But all I can do is work as hard as I can, concentrate on what I'm doing, and not worry too much about anything else about the championship situation." And I think is exactly the right attitude. Well, I think we've answered the question. The team has come on. It's not just a one-track wonder. He was slightly on the back foot for the first two-thirds of the season. The team Rosberg were slightly behind Team Abt Sportsline, but now they have very much made their way to the top of the field. Right, Nico Muller then gave it his absolute everything in that qualifying session. We can hear from him now, down with Verena.
This man was pushing so hard. Nico Müller, you tried your very, very best, obviously pushing so hard. However, now it's all about the points. You're 20 points behind René. So what can you do this weekend? How does the car feel? How do you feel about it?
Yeah, actually not bad. I mean, first row is always a good starting point. Obviously, the not so nice thing about it is that René scored a point more than us. So the starting position I'm pleased with. Points I would have loved to reduce the gap instead of letting it increase, but he did a good job, and I think he deserves that pole position. We were very close and maybe just missed that little bit of luck as well, but the race will be long. There's more points in the race, and clearly the target is to try and win this afternoon.
All right, thank you so much, Nico. Back to you.
Thanks very much, Verena. Well, one thing that almost always is true of Nico Muller is that he remains calm at all times. It was slightly out of a characteristic outburst on the radio when he got stuck behind Jamie Green at Zolder last time out. That was very much out of character. He's a cool, calm character. He's not out of it yet. René Rast, though, ahead of him on the grid. Nico Muller will shape up just alongside him. The top two in the championship, the top two on the grid, with Aberdeen and Green third and fourth, according to the timing screen. Eng up there as well inside the top six. Loic Duval and Robin Freins next up, 7th and 8th. Now, Robin Freins with his joint worst qualifying of the season so far. Mike Rockenfeller and Fabio Scherer will share row number 5. And then Robert Kubica just outside the top 10. Ferdinand Habsburg might be one to watch coming through from just behind, 12th on the grid. Glock and Wittmann 13th and 14th. And then Harrison Newey and Lucas Auer will be at the back of the grid. Right then, let's wrap things up by hearing from the man of the moment, speaking to Verena.
This man really is the man of the moment. Congratulations, René. Fantastic qualifying. Another pole, the 6th, I think. And if you win today and Nico is not second, that means today you can grab the title. Do you think you can make it happen?
Yeah, obviously we want to win the race. Not only for the championship, but also do ahead of Matthias Ekström in victories. But the ultimate goal should not be to win the race. It should be to stay ahead of Nico in the championship. That's the ultimate goal. And we have to try to achieve that today. If it's a win, it's perfect. If it's not a win and just a second place behind Nico, it's also okay. But obviously, I'm happy to be on pole now. So let's see.
Fantastic job you did. Thank you so much. We're really looking forward to the race, that's for sure. And now here are the highlights of the qualifying, and we'll see you later for the race. Bye-bye.
line, your pole in front of Müller. Well done, mate.
Yeah!